This lesson for the Corning Project class will speak about etymology. I'll title the lesson Alpha Males and Alpha Females and their alpha reactions to etymology. And yes, we're talking about the negative particle, and I was having a little fun with that. I told you in Acts 14:17 we would look at the adjective form. When you hear in this class, I'll say negative testimony or negative testimony. For example, the word sin breaks down into that. And I told you, you can see it obviously in the adjective. Lexicons aren't inspired, thankfully, but somehow when you go to the noun, they went to meros, measure, which with the alpha privative then would be like negate the mark. And it's where the saying came, miss the mark or something like that. But there's another word for that. But you could tell it in the lexicon if you ever used those. And I'm not saying people outside this type of class would, but we've had a lot of emoting towards us, which is fine. It's very unusual, not unusual at all. But alpha male is supposedly supposed to be a high thing, and I'm showing you just how negative it is. And an alpha female, I'm using alpha privative as the negative, and I don't like to incite negative reactions. It's just strange that the reaction itself can only be negative. We're not often finding people who collaborate. So let me move out of the way, let you see the board, and notice at the top there, Acts 14:17, and you see the alpha privative there. And then I wrote martyr, M-A-R-T-Y-R in our language, martyr. And it's an adjective, Strong's number G2267, accusative singular masculine. It's made up of this prefix, the alpha, some say alpha, and who cares? G1 as a negative. Notice that's one of the things we were trained to do was to write something in English where someone could take that English document, let's say a text, and you word it out. They could actually reconstruct the Greek New Testament from how you did it. So as I've taught in many classes before, if you just see this, you can just remove the part that tells us what it is in English, for example, and then just notice that it's negative. There it is. So it's a negative particle. So that's what you do. So, and it's an adjective. And here you see Martise. There's the Strong's number. All this came from blueletterbible.org, by the way. It's not a problem at all. Anyone can use that. It's user friendly, whether you know Greek or Hebrew or not. Well, then Strong's definition says unattested. We'd have to then supply the word one. He did not leave himself an unattested one. Test as in testify, for example. And then without witness. So as I've said before, when you see that negative particle, then it means that to which its prefix is without or absence in meaning of that, and then in function it negates. And we've had a lot of pushback, and I don't mind at all, especially when I've learned now that apparently the word patho, persuade, is very controversial. It's unnecessarily so. Of course, if you've been primed according to constructs and you have no value because of that, you have to have the source avoidance. You don't invite information in that would prove your construct incredulous, I suppose, or fallible. So here we see the definition of martyros, unattested, without witness. And then we go here, break it down. It's from this word martis here, martis, martis. You can see it transliterated. A witness, literally, by analogy, martyr, a record or witness. So with that in mind, I think I can find some room up here, blueletterbible.org, and I'll just show you what's happened in just with John 3:36 and what the Bible teaches, and how, well, this is so low and rudimentary that I guess it can be, as I've learned, it can almost be insulting. We had apathon in John 3:36. John 3:36, where John the Baptist said that the one who is believing into the Son is already having life everlasting or everlasting life. But the one who is negating persuasion by the Son will not see life, but rather the wrath of God is already abiding upon him. So if you're believing, you already have an everlasting life. And if you're negating persuasion and by the Son, then you will not see life, but rather the wrath of God is already abiding. Now, that abiding wrath will stop when you believe, but negating persuasion by the Son is preventing you actively or negating persuasion. So let's just follow through. This is the, oh, there we go. This is the negative. So when I said negate persuasion, the one negating, that's a present active participle. This is from the verb. So here I've got room. We'll put present active participle. So that's referring to the person. There we go. And then it's from path eo. There we go. Path. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think I've spelled that correctly. Let me check. Let me check here. Go to my blueletterbible.org. Oh, yep, I was right. I'm going to have to stop lacking confidence in myself. So much negative feedback is really starting to diminish me and tire me and wear me and cause me to second guess. So, and if you believe that, you can definitely uh, become a great salesman or be duped a lot. So, this was from Pathes. So, we're carrying this negative here. Well, then, if you do any work at all, etymology, which is, like I said, this is so painfully simple that it's frightening. Well, this is from alpha, and then the verb patho. There we go. So there it is. Persuade, the verb, persuade, and then the negative particle. So that was it. So, yes, I've been schooled by people telling me I'm committing an etymological fallacy. I think they're against mechanical translation. They're against every express written character being a God-breathed express written character, every letter, whatever that all is. But you can see how easy that is because you notice patho, because you say, well, why the translator put the one who believes and the one who's disbelieved? How is it written in King James? Let's read that. Where is that? Yeah, here we go. 3:36. It says, he that believeth on the Son has everlasting life, he that believeth not. So it translates patho as pistuo. But patho is persuade, and this is believe. This is what leads a person to do that. So the feedback, the charge is of etymological fallacy is that uh, you can't say that patho doesn't equal pistuo. I'm not sure, and then you can't say that alpha prefixed is negative. Again, the more people make charges, the less cogent. And of course, you do know how this all breaks down. It becomes the frontal cortex has moved away, the adrenaline increases, the emoting escalates. And what you get is long replies. Where in just a few moments we can look at the board and see that even noticing that in the Bible there's the testimony of Christ and then the negative testimony of the world. Paul, easy example. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and life. Paul said, no, he's not the way. No, he's not the truth. No, he's not the life. He even went and received warrants to go out and persecute people. The way, which was the word, what they were now being called was the way. And of course, you remember religious people, they don't want to do something evil illegally. So he had to go get paperwork to go and do that. But he was negating the testimony of Christ. Then he went from being a prosecutor to a preacher. And it's quite a story for him to go from negatively testifying to testifying. Now, if that stuff's like like too much for someone, you're probably dealing with someone. I don't know if you remember, but if someone they may be feigning fragility as a camouflage, as we learned in Nouthetic Counseling by Dr. J. Adams. People generate camouflage, and this could be camouflage, and they could just be emoting outwardly, hoping their audience that they're playing back to can see, and they send out the signals, hey, come over and help me, and you have to come up with something. So to invent a charge of etymological fallacy, and then to know that, in the real world where grown people live, and you can pick up just a small book on etymology. And why etymology? Etymology deals with the origin or derivation of words, and that would include the parts. So I would like to say quantum koine, because we deal with the scale of words and their parts. And if you don't use etymology, that's not a problem for us in this class. It's just that for those of you that want to know how charged this idea of persuasion is, even if you notice what the book says and how volatile this word sin is, to where when you notice its negative testimony, now what do you think that makes of all this constant talk, all these formed categories, all this jargon, all this narrative, all this literature, all these things people constantly are producing, religionists are, to negate the testimony of Christ. And if you ever want to notice what this feature of sin looks like, go buy yourself a Walter Martin's Cults Reference Bible. And when it comes to Jesus Christ, for example, he has a chart and it shows every world religion that negates him. Example, as I was saying, how uh, much the emotional reaction's been when we noticed by using the language that we could magnify Christ and teach the necessity of both preaching the gospel and then the necessity of by that gospel being persuaded to believe into Jesus, and then in Jesus Christ is when and where God the Father makes us alive together in Christ. And we're just using very simple grammar because as commoners, we want it so people can understand at any level, and it's for clarity. It's not so we can say, does our translation sound good? It's is the message clear. So that's the best I can do. And I admit I've been schooled by people in etymology, apparently, that have noticed the need from their etymological training to negate the use of the negative particle. Yeah, I know I'm laughing because I just make a pun. That was ironic that if you tell someone sin means negative testimony, they said no. I said, yeah, you got it. Or you tell them that to negatively persuade, to negate persuasion. No, I said, you got it. You figured it out. And now you're negating persuasion. You're negating negative persuasion. You are building an entire argument to do away with it, to negate it, nullify it, and assure that it is that the doctrine in the New Testament is without persuasion. It's so your whole construct lacks the very thing that the Bible teaches, and you're doing the negation of persuasion. So you have a blessed day, and those of you that are using this language and finding it useful as you go out and preach Christ, which is why we're training, and you like the Holy Spirit, glorify Him, and you preach the gospel of the glory of Christ, you'll enjoy these things. So have a blessed day.